I've titled this the MBA perspective of creating mutual value. Notice, we begin with profitability on the supply side, on the demand side. We need to have participation of the poor, access to good opportunities as suppliers, employees, distributors. There's the human development impact, which reminds us of those 8 Millennium Development Goals. And there's nothing better than to have a sustainable business for all parties involved. Sustainability in and of itself is a very complicated issue. Okay? So at this point, I need a teacher's helper. Okay? So here's a handout, because this is the handout that I really like. We'll get you one. This is the handout that really outlines how to build inclusive markets for the poor. Okay? And as we think about businesses, there are strategies, which are across the top, and constraints, which businesses need to solve. So I really like this approach, and this is the approach that we'll be working with, where there are strategies and constraints. And as you can see, adapt products, blah, blah, blah. I'll have some things to say about each of those. Okay? So I'd like to look on the second page. You have this one. So here are the strategies for adapting products and processes. You know, avoid adverse incentives. We talk about that in economics. Leverage information and communications technology. Avoid adverse, and you can just see so forth and so on. Mobile banking is a way of building inclusive markets for lots of individuals, though in many countries, started in Africa, but actually has now built out. Strategy number 2, invest in removing market constraints. Do market research, build financial products, build infrastructure, improve supplier performance, capture intangible benefits. Strategies number 2. I particularly like this one. I'm going to spend a minute on this. Leveraging the strengths of the poor. Too often, in my experience, we don't value the poor in terms of their, we have all these stereotypes. And most of the stereotypes that we have about poor individuals are actually probably wrong, and I'm going to show some pictures to try to demonstrate that. But leveraging the strengths of the poor seems to be at the core of everything, and it's the core of innovation and thinking about things. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like to take you to India right now. This is in New Delhi. These are some pictures that I took in a very poor neighborhood of New Delhi. And as I'm showing you these pictures, I'd like you to try to imagine yourself in their lives, living in their neighborhood. What do these real people experience every day? Okay, so I'm just going to... What about this guy? Notice, he's outside brushing his teeth. He's outside brushing his teeth because he has no running water inside. Okay? You can see his house or his place of business with a little freezer refrigerator out in front. This is a workshop. Look at this workshop. Look at these individuals. They're working. They're taking a break for me to take their picture, but they're taking scraps and they're putting those scraps together. Here, this is the repackaging of jeans. In India, there's a famous brand of jeans called Rough and Ready, where the patterns are cut in mass but are distributed out into lots of rural areas where they're put together. Look at these guys are part of the supply chain of packaging and distribution. You can see the bundles there. Here's a kid, 15 maybe. Look at, he's working on the close. And these are the bundles that are carried. Okay? These are the bundles that are carried. So try to imagine the lives of those people. What business opportunities could we have? Real quickly, I'd like to go on to the next page. Combining resources is another strategy. Promote training, combine capabilities, blah, 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 self-regulate. And then finally, engage. Government is just such a big entity in all of this. All of us have obligations to deal with the government. Okay? So I'd like you to look at this picture of this mother and her 2 kids. Again, try to imagine their lives. And so from a big perspective, we can see that if we're building inclusive markets, we need to have a bunch of things going on. Here's the part where finance and microfinance comes in. There's advocacy positions for businesses. There's building capabilities. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on here. But this, in my mind, just simplifies everything. Really, here's a simplified value chain from supplier to venture to customer. If we build that out, things happen for employees, communities flourish, and society at large. We build economic, social, and environmental value, the triple bottom line. And again, you can see that value chain running right across the bottom. Okay? So there are constraints. I'm actually just going to move through these. I believe that this is an important one, that businesses know too little about the poor. And so I'd like to take you inside to look at 2 houses. These are inside 2 individual houses in India. Are there anything that are surprising? Does it fit your stereotype? Who lives there? How can we work with them, the people that live here? And then I'd like to show you one more. Another inside picture for water, for milk, for food. Inadequate physical infrastructure we have to deal with. That's a challenge. Missing knowledge and skills. There's lots of things that we need to do to educate individuals, including ourselves. And of course, a lot of this revolves around finance, okay? Almost to where we're going to work with this. Here are 4 large domains of organizations that can really help in the overall kind of ecology of poverty alleviation. Certainly we spend a lot of time thinking about what multinationals can do, but there are large domestic companies, small and medium-sized enterprises, and nonprofit organizations. And notice they have a variety of functions, all of which intersect and which enable this whole kind of elaborate marketplace to develop. So this is my take on things. This, to me, is the overall challenge that we have. I call it mental rigidity. And I face it too. It means being stuck in our way of seeing things. You can see I've included myself in here. Okay? So how can we break our mental rigidity? Okay? So I'd like for us to look at one short little case example.